Hello, my last video talking about Concord, which is a hero shooter for PC and PlayStation 5, and discussing how it's pretty much dead on arrival, got quite a lot of views. As I'm sat here 24 hours after upload, it has 3,200 views, which puts it at a 1 of 10 in my creator studio. So, today, I thought we'd discuss 10 games that unfortunately didn't make the cut. Whether they were dead on arrival or lost players rapidly after their launch, these games had potential but couldn't sustain it. So let's get into it. At number 1, we have The Cycle Frontier. The Cycle Frontier launched with a lot of excitement, drawing in thousands of players that were eager for a PvPvE experience. However, within a few months, player numbers plummeted drastically. Despite its unique concept, issues like balancing problems, the lack of content, and persistent bugs led to its downfall. The servers are still online, but the community is a shadow of its former self. The 24-hour peak on Steam charts for The Cycle Frontier is 4 players, and as of me recording this video, players right now is just 1 person, all by themselves. This game's peak 2 years ago was 40,854 players, which is pretty good, but obviously it just didn't stand the test of time. The second game is one that's lesser known, and one that I played really early on and voiced some opinions on about its price point. The game is Quantum League, which was a unique twist on the FPS genre with a time-looping mechanic. The game saw a moderate launch but failed to retain its player base, with numbers dropping significantly within a couple of months. The main reasons were steep learning curve and lack of long-form content. As of now, the servers have been taken offline. I believe many players thought the game would be free to play, and when it dropped, I think it was about a $20 price tag, which, for an unknown IP, was a pretty demanding ask. Something cool about this game though, is it seems to have taken a lot of inspiration from a Corridor Digital video. The video is one of their first, is now 13 years old, and it's called Clock Blockers. That's right, I said that right, Clock Blockers. Okay, not the other one. Right. Moving on. Number 3 is another game that was in a very similar situation. The game was called Leap. Leap promised fast-paced action and impressive visuals, but it couldn't deliver on player engagement. Again, another big fact with Leap that I warned them about, as did many other content creators, is the cost. At launch, Leap was a $25 game, which again, for an unknown IP in the shooter world where many of its competition was free to play, Leap was bound to struggle, and that it did. Despite thousands of codes being sent out for its playtest, Leap had an all-time peak 2 years ago of 371 players. Despite the rapid drop in numbers, the servers are still active as of now, but as you can imagine, not many people are playing, with the current plays being at 0 and the 24-hour peak being just 1 player. Leap has been asked many times why they won't go free to play, and have pretty much been demanded to go free to play by their players and content creators, but they won't simply tackle the issue, they will not address it, and the game is still, it's actually $30 now on Steam, so the price has risen since launch. This one hits close to home. As I said, I played it early and I played it quite frequently when the playtest was happening. I warned them of what would happen and they simply didn't listen. This is the fate we all knew for this game, and unfortunately, you just couldn't do anything about it. Number 4 is Evolve. I'm sure many of you recognise this name. Evolve had a ton of hype surrounding its 4 vs 1 monster hunting concept. It launched strong with a significant player base, but within a few months the numbers dropped quite sharply. Its peak was very impressive with an all-time of 51,127, but their 5-digit player count would only last 2 months. According to research online, as I didn't play this game myself, the primary issues people had were controversial DLC practices and many balancing problems. Despite attempts to revive it with Evolve Stage 2, the game ultimately shut down its services. Next game on the list was started by an absolutely huge developer and one that I look up to quite a lot. The game is Disintegration, and it was founded by Marcus Leto, one of Halo's co-founders. The game combined FPS and RTS elements, along with an open world, which drew curiosity from gamers. However, it couldn't maintain its player base. Numbers dropped off very quickly post-launch, and criticisms included a lackluster story and uninspiring multiplayer modes. Just 5 months after release, the developers announced the discontinuation for the multiplayer servers. Next is Rogue Company, which had a strong start, attracting many players with its free-to-play model and cross-platform play, peaking around 15,000 players. However, the numbers saw a significant decline within just a few months. Issues such as repetitive gameplay and slow updates were to blame, While the game is still online, it struggles with maintaining a stable player base, but in recent months has been on a slow incline. It currently has 608 people playing as I'm making this video, which is their peak for the past year. Rogue Company, however, did get in some hot water recently, as they had a skin for a famous streamer who was in some very controversial news recently, Dr. Disrespect. They removed said skin and many players were demanding a refund, to which Rogue Company said will not be happening. Whether their high impressions online has any tie-in to the increase in player numbers is unknown, but it might play a part in some people checking out the game again. Number 7 on today's list is CrossFireX. It aimed to bring the popular Crossfire franchise to a global audience. The original Crossfire is one of the biggest and most played games in the Asian market, especially China and South Korea, with a peak of 6 million concurrent users. However, CrossFireX peaked at around 1,500 players. The problems led to a swift decline in numbers, and the game shut down its servers in less than a year of its release. At launch, the game faced a big problem with poor performance and some gameplay issues. And in 2022, Metacritic listed CrossFireX as the second worst game of the year. IGN criticised the storytelling, calling characters bland, while describing the multiplayer as having atrocious gunplay and controls, and Polygon criticised the pacing of the game as well. So it's safe to say there wasn't many good things about CrossFireX, but the Crossfire franchise is still huge in the Asian market today. Number 8 on today's list is another game that I played. It's Project Xandata, a fast-paced shooter from the Philippines. Had a promising start with a niche but dedicated player base of around 500 players in early access. However, it couldn't sustain the momentum due to server issues and balancing problems. The player numbers dropped quickly, and the servers were ultimately shut down due to lack of players. The game was a 3v3 arena-style FPS, and you played as a Xandat. You could customize your loadout to fit your playstyle, and it was kind of a hero shooter vibe. This is one that I actually kind of wanted to see have some success, as you don't often see many games being made out of the Philippines, and it would have been a nice success story for those guys, but unfortunately the app was retired from Steam entirely. Getting close to the end now, with the penultimate game being Spellbreak. It brought magical twists to the Battle Royale genre and attracted a lot of attention at launch, peaking around 15,000 players. However, the numbers declined within a few months once again, and the game faced criticism for the lack of content and depth. The developers announced the shutdown of the servers after failing to retain a substantial player base. The game was shut down in early 2023, however, you can still play the game. The game is now upkept by the community on itch.io. Like many of its players, a small community in Spellbreak was sad to see the development come to an end and decided to help revive the game. To enjoy the HoloLens, they created a standalone version where you can play and host their own servers, so peer-to-peer connection with their friends. This community is called the Elemental Fracture, and 3 months ago had a Discord server that has over 4,000 members, so pretty active. However, the last update for Spellbreak was January 10th of 2023, so doesn't seem like it's getting any future updates, but hey, as I said, 3 months ago they had 4,000 players in a Discord server, not too bad. And finally, on today's list, number 10 is Battleborn. Battleborn had a rocky start, launching at the same time as Overwatch. It peaked around 12,000 players. Despite the unique blend of MOBA and FPS elements, it still struggled to find an audience. Player numbers dropped sharply after launch, leading to the servers being shut down a few years later. Competition with Overwatch and poor initial reviews were two major factors in its decline. You can still play the game if you have it, and there is 5 people playing as I'm making this video. However, it is no longer available to download on the Steam store. At one point, the game would also release a free PvP trial, but in the end, it wouldn't help it sustain any kind of decent player base. And that's it. Many of these games showed great potential, but couldn't sustain the player base for various reasons, whether it was technical issues and bugs, lack of content, or just tough competition releasing at the same time. They serve as a reminder of how challenging the gaming industry can be. What do you think of these games, and have you played any of them? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and you might as well hit the notification bell. I never ask you to do that. I'll ask you one time and one time only. So yeah, hit that for more gaming content and life updates and stuff. And that's it. Yeah, I hope this was enjoyable, and I'll see you in the next video, whatever it may be. Goodbye.